There's a difference between a secret and something nobody talks about. A secret is deliberate. Someone knows and they're choosing not to tell you. There's intent behind it, a decision. But the thing I'm talking about is different. It's when a group of people have all silently agreed, without ever discussing it, that a certain thing simply isn't spoken about. Not because they're hiding it, because speaking about it would make it real in a way they can't live with. That's what I walked into in the fall of 2021. I was 24. I'd just graduated with a wildlife management degree from Virginia Tech, and I needed field hours to finish my certification. A friend of a friend told me the Forest Service was hiring seasonal positions in East Tennessee. Nothing glamorous, trail maintenance, visitor contact, resource surveys. The kind of work where you spend 10 hours a day in the woods and go home smelling like DEET and creek water. I applied to a station in the Cherokee National Forest, the Tellico District, deep in the Unicoi Mountains, about 20 miles south of a town called Tellico Plains. The station was called Bald River, named after the river that ran through the drainage below it. I remember being excited, genuinely excited. I grew up in the suburbs outside of Richmond, and the idea of spending 3 months in the southern Appalachians felt like the beginning of something, like I was finally doing what I'd gone to school for. I had no idea what that station was. Nobody told me. That was the whole point. The station was small, not like the big district offices you see near trailheads with parking lots and visitor centers. This was a working station, 3 buildings set back from a Forest Service road at the end of a gravel spur about 4 miles past the last house. The main building was a single-story cinder block structure with a green metal roof, maybe 40 years old. It had an office, a common room with a wood stove, a small kitchen, a radio room, and 4 bunk rooms in the back. Behind it was a maintenance shed and a storage building where they kept the tools, the chainsaws, the fuel. The forest came right up to the edge of the clearing. Tulip poplars, red oaks, hemlocks so old their trunks were wider than my arm span. The canopy was dense enough that even at noon the station sat in this permanent blue-green shade, damp, cool, even in September. The smell of the place, I remember this clearly, was rhododendron and wet stone and the faint chemical tang of chainsaw oil. There were 4 of us stationed there, me and 3 others. Glenn Messer was the lead. Late 40s, born in Madisonville, been with the Forest Service for 22 years. He had the kind of quiet authority that comes from never needing to raise his voice, big hands, chewing tobacco, spoke in short sentences and expected you to keep up. Tanya Rourke was mid-30s. Former Army, did 2 tours, came home and decided she wanted to work outside and not talk to people. She was good at her job and completely uninterested in small talk. I liked her immediately. And there was Kyle Jessup, 28. He'd been at Bald River for 2 seasons already, friendly in a careful way, like someone who wanted to connect but had learned not to get too close. They were all perfectly normal, professional, competent, but there was something underneath it, something I felt before I understood it, a kind of tension that lived in the gaps between conversations. The way Glenn would look out the window at dusk and his jaw would tighten, just slightly. The way Tanya always made sure the deadbolts were thrown before she sat down to eat dinner. The way Kyle would start to say something and then stop, glancing at Glenn, catching himself. On my first morning, Glenn walked me through the station, showed me the equipment, the radio protocol, the filing system, the vehicle log, standard orientation stuff. And then he walked me to the common room wall, right next to the wood stove, and pointed to a laminated sheet of paper tacked to the corkboard between a fire weather chart and a faded Smokey Bear poster. "Read this," he said. "Memorize it." The sheet was typed, clean formatting, laminated so thickly the edges had yellowed. It had been there a long time. Bald River Station evening and night protocol. All personnel must be inside the main building, by 6:30 p.m. from October through March, and by 8 p.m. from April through September. No exceptions. All exterior doors must be deadbolted by sundown. Do not open them until sunrise, regardless of what you see or hear outside. The floodlight on the north side of the building must remain on all night. If it goes out, do not go outside to fix it. Report it in the morning. Do not look out the windows after midnight. If you need to use the restroom, walk with your eyes on the floor. If you hear knocking on any exterior door or wall between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., do not respond. Do not approach the door. Do not acknowledge the sound. If you hear a voice outside of any voice, including one you recognize, do not respond. Wake the lead ranger immediately. The storage building is off limits after dark. Under no circumstances should anyone enter or approach the storage building between sundown and sunrise. If you hear the storage building's door open or close during the night, ignore it. Note the time in the logbook in the morning. Do not discuss these protocols with anyone outside the station. Do not discuss the reasons for these protocols at all. I read it twice. Questions, Glenn said. I had about 30. What's the reason for Rule 9? He said, and walked away. I tried. I want to be clear about that. I tried to ask. On my second night after dinner, I sat down next to Kyle while he was cleaning his boots on the porch. It was still before curfew, and I said casually, like I was just making conversation, "So, the rules on the wall, what's the deal?" Kyle looked at me, really looked at me, and his expression did something complicated. It went from open to closed in about half a second, like a door shutting behind his eyes. "Just follow them," he said. "That's all you need to do." "Yeah, but I mean, is it a wildlife thing? Bears? We had a professor who worked at a station where they had a problem, bear that would—" "It's not bears." He went back to his boots. Conversation over. I tried Tanya the next day during a trail survey. We'd been hiking for 3 hours. She'd loosened up a little. We were talking about music, and I steered the conversation toward the station. "How long have those rules been posted?" She didn't miss a step, literally didn't break stride. "Longer than I've been here. And nobody's ever explained." "You're doing it again," she said. Not unkind, just firm, like a teacher redirecting a kid who keeps asking why the sky is blue. Doing what? Asking about something that doesn't have an answer you'll like. That was it. She moved on to talking about an invasive beetle species, and the moment was gone. Here's the thing that got to me. It wasn't the rules themselves. I'd worked enough field jobs to know that remote stations have quirks. Bear protocols, lightning procedures, flood evacuation plans. Every posting has its version of the wall of rules. That was normal. What wasn't normal was the silence around them, the refusal to explain, not with anger or hostility, with something quieter, something that looked from the outside almost like grief. These people weren't hiding a secret. They were carrying one. The first week was uneventful. We worked during the day trail clearing, campsite inspections, a fish survey on Bald River. Normal stuff, good work. I liked it. The forest was beautiful in that particular way the southern Appalachians get in early fall, when the understory starts to go gold and the air turns thin and sharp. At night, we'd eat together, play cards or read, and by curfew, everyone was in their bunks. The deadbolts would click, the floodlight would buzz on the north wall, and the station would settle into silence. On day 8, I woke up at 2 a.m. I don't know what woke me. Not a sound, exactly. More like the absence of sound. That deep, pressurized silence that happens when even the insects stop. I was lying in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, and I became aware of something outside. Not a specific noise, a presence. The way you can feel someone standing behind you in a dark room, even though you can't see them and they haven't made a sound. You just know. And then footsteps. On the gravel outside the building. Slow, heavy, the crunch of each step deliberate, like whatever was walking wasn't trying to be quiet. It was moving along the north wall, toward the front of the station. I sat up. My bunk was against an exterior wall. I could feel the footsteps through the cinder block, not just hear them, feel them. The vibration of something heavy pressing into gravel transmitted through the foundation. The footsteps stopped at the front door. Silence. Then knocking. 3 slow knocks, measured, patient. The same interval between each one. My hand went to the wall instinctively, like I was going to push myself up and go to the door. And then Rule 5 materialized in my head, sharp and clear, like someone had whispered it directly into my ear. If you hear knocking on any exterior door or wall between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., do not respond. Do not approach the door. Do not acknowledge the sound. 3 more knocks, same rhythm. Then a voice. Hello? A man's voice, polite. The kind of voice you'd use at someone's front door when you need directions. Normal, completely, terrifyingly normal. Hello? Anybody there? I'm lost. I need help. Rule 6. If you hear a voice outside any voice, including one you recognize, do not respond. Wake the lead ranger immediately. I didn't wake Glenn. I couldn't move. I lay there in the dark, listening to that voice ask for help for maybe 10 minutes. It never got upset, never got louder, never got impatient. It just kept asking, in that same calm, reasonable tone, like it had all the time in the world. I can see the light. I know someone's in there. Can you please open the door? Then it stopped. The footsteps resumed, moving away from the door, back along the north wall. And then, and this is the part that made my skin prickle so badly, I actually scratched myself. The footsteps went toward the storage building. I heard the storage building door open, the metal scrape of it sliding on its track. A thick, heavy sound. Then it closed. Silence. In the morning, I walked into the common room, and Kyle was already at the table, writing something in a spiral-bound logbook. He looked up at me, and I could tell from his face that he'd heard it too. "What time?" he asked. "Around 2:15. He wrote it down, didn't say anything else. I looked at the logbook, pages and pages of entries, dates and times, 3 entries per week, going back months, all in different handwriting. Just times, no descriptions, no explanations. I became obsessed with the storage building. During the day, it was nothing. A metal-sided outbuilding about 30 feet from the main station. Standard Forest Service construction. Concrete pad, corrugated steel walls, sliding barn-style door. Inside, chainsaws, Pulaskis, hand tools, fuel cans, coils of rope, stacks of brown Forest Service signs waiting to be posted. It smelled like gasoline and sawdust and rust. There was nothing strange about it. I went in and out of it every day for work. In daylight, it was just a shed. But I started noticing things. The lock on the door was heavy, much heavier than it needed to be for a tool shed. Industrial, the kind of lock you'd see on a freight container. And there was a second lock, a padlock on the inside of the door. You could see the mounting hardware from inside. Someone had installed a way to lock the building from the inside. Why would you lock a tool shed from the inside? The concrete pad had marks on it, scratches in the floor near the back wall, in a pattern I couldn't make sense of, deep gouges like something had been dragged, or like something with hard, blunt edges had scraped against the concrete repeatedly in the same spot for a long time. And in the back corner, behind a stack of fiberglass trail markers, there was a hatch. A steel hatch set into the concrete floor. maybe 3 feet square, with a padlock on it that I didn't have a key for. I asked Glenn about it, tried to be casual. "What's the hatch in the storage building floor? Root cellar?" Glenn was filling out a fire weather report. He didn't look up. "Don't worry about it. I just want to know if we keep supplies down." I said, "Don't worry about it." His voice didn't change. Same flat, quiet tone. But something in his posture shifted. His shoulders drew up, just slightly, the way a dog's hackles rise. I'd never seen Glenn look uncomfortable before. It lasted half a second. Then he was back to his report. I dropped it, but I didn't stop thinking about it. It was week 3 when Tanya broke. Not dramatically, not a confession by firelight, nothing like that. It was small and quiet and almost accidental, the way truth usually comes out. We were sitting on the tailgate of a Forest Service truck at the end of a long day. October dusk coming on fast, the mountains going purple. We had maybe 20 minutes before curfew. She was smoking, she only smoked after hard days, and I was picking gravel out of my boot treads. "You're still thinking about it," she said. Not a question. "Yeah." She took a long drag, held it, let it out slow. "How much do you want to know?" "Enough to stop feeling crazy." She stared at the tree line for a while. The hemlocks were just starting to dissolve into shadow. Somewhere down the drainage, a barred owl called, that eerie, almost human sound they make, like a question with no answer. "There used to be 6 of us at this station," she said, "when I started. 2 more than now. A guy named Wheaton and a woman named Priya." She paused, flicked ash. "Wheaton was like you. Couldn't let it go. Kept asking, kept poking at it. One night, this was my first October here, he decided the rules were bullshit. Hazing. Old-timers messing with the new people. So he went outside after dark, just to prove a point. Walked out the front door at about 11:30, stood in the clearing, said something like, 'See? Nothing. There's nothing out here.'" Another drag. Her hand was steady, but her voice had gotten quieter. "He was right, for about a minute, and then he wasn't." "What happened?" "He came back inside, fast, slammed the door, threw the deadbolt, didn't say a word, went to his bunk. In the morning he packed his bag and drove away. Never came back, never filed his resignation, just left." "And Priya?" Tanya's jaw tightened. "Priya went looking for answers. She found the hatch in the storage building, found a way to get it open. This was in November, last light around 5:30. She went down there around 4 in the afternoon. Should have had plenty of time." "Went down where? What's under the hatch?" "I don't know. I never went down. Glenn pulled her out about 40 minutes later. She was fine, physically. She wasn't hurt, but something had changed. She couldn't stop talking fast, fragmented, not making sense. Kept saying, 'They've always been here and it goes so far down and we're not supposed to be this close.'" Tanya dropped the cigarette, stepped on it. "She was on medical leave by the end of the week. I heard she moved to Tucson, desert, far from mountains, far from trees, far from whatever's under that building." She looked at me directly. "I don't know what it is. I don't want to know. And neither do you. The rules work. We follow them. We're fine. That's all there is." She got off the tailgate. "Curfew in 8 minutes. Let's go inside." After Tanya told me that, something shifted. Not in the station. In me. I stopped trying to understand. I stopped asking questions. I followed the rules the way you follow the laws of physics, not because someone told me to, but because the alternative was something I couldn't survive. The voice came back 3 more times during my last 2 weeks. Always between midnight and 4, always polite, always asking to come in. Once it used Tanya's voice or something that sounded so close to Tanya's voice that the difference was almost academic. I was lying in the dark, and I heard her call from outside. "Hey!" I locked myself out. "Can someone get the door?" Tanya was asleep in the next bunk. I could hear her breathing. Whatever was outside had her voice. The cadence, the slight rasp from the cigarettes, the way she clipped the ends of her sentences. Perfect. I put the pillow over my ears and waited. On my second-to-last night, I broke Rule 4, not on purpose. I woke up needing the bathroom, and I was groggy, half asleep, and I forgot. I walked down the hall, and I glanced, just a glance, reflexive, the way you naturally look toward a window when you pass one, out the common room window. The floodlight was on, throwing that harsh white cone across the north side of the clearing, and at the edge of the light, just where it bled into darkness, something was standing. I only saw it for a fraction of a second. My brain was already telling my eyes to look away, already flooding with adrenaline, already screaming at me to follow the rule. But I saw it. It was shaped like a person, standing upright, very still. The proportions were close enough to human that at a distance in daylight you might mistake it. But this close, maybe 40 feet, something was wrong. The limbs were too long relative to the torso. The head was tilted at an angle that a human neck shouldn't allow. And it was pale, not white, not albino, a grayish pale, like something that had never been in sunlight. It wasn't moving, but it was facing the window. I looked at the floor. I walked to the bathroom. I walked back. I didn't look again. When I got back to my bunk, my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't grip the blanket. I lay there until morning with my heart slamming against my ribs, and that image, that shape, that wrongness at the edge of the light burned into the inside of my eyelids. My last day was October 14th. I shook everyone's hand. Glenn gave me a firm nod and said, "You did good." Tanya walked me to my car and stood there with her arms crossed, squinting against the morning sun. "You gonna be okay?" she asked. "I don't know." She nodded like that was the right answer. "Don't come back here," she said. "Don't write about it. Don't try to find out more. Just live your life." "How do you do it? Stay here?" She thought about it for a long time. "Because someone has to. If nobody staffs this station, nobody follows the rules. And if nobody follows the rules..." She didn't finish the sentence. I got in my car, drove down the gravel road, watched the station disappear in my rearview mirror, swallowed by hemlocks. I cried about halfway to Tellico Plains, not because of what I'd seen, because of what Tanya's face looked like when she said someone has to. I finished my certification, got a desk job with the State Wildlife Agency in Richmond, cubicle, fluorescent lights, climate-controlled office with drop ceiling tiles and a water cooler that gurgles every 45 minutes. The most remote thing in my life now is the parking lot. I think about Bald River every day, not the thing I saw. I try not to think about that. I think about the people. Glenn, still there, still filing reports, still locking the deadbolts at sundown. Tanya, still smoking on the tailgate, still listening to that voice call her name from the darkness, still not answering. Kyle, still writing times in the logbook, page after page after page. They're still there because they believe that their presence, their obedience to those rules is keeping something contained, or maybe not contained, managed, tolerated, whatever word you use for an arrangement between people and something that isn't people. I looked up the station on Google Maps about 6 months ago. Satellite view. The clearing, the 3 buildings, the road, the storage building. From above, it's just a gray rectangle with a shadow on one side. I stared at it for 20 minutes. I don't know what's under that hatch. I don't know what walks the clearing at night. I don't know why it uses our voices, or why it knocks so politely, or what happens if you actually open the door. I don't know if Wheaton saw the same thing I saw, or something worse. I don't know what Priya found under the building that broke something inside her, and I don't know if the rules are protecting us from what's out there or protecting what's out there from us finding out what it really is. Sometimes I think the two aren't different. That's where I have to leave it. Not because I don't have more to say, because I promised Tanya I wouldn't, and because some part of me still believes, really, genuinely believes, that talking about this too much is one of the things you're not supposed to do. Not because someone told me, because I can feel it. The same way I could feel those footsteps through the cinder block wall. Some things don't want to be known, and maybe respecting that is the only rule that actually matters. If you've ever worked a posting where the rules didn't make sense, but everyone followed them anyway, where the old-timers looked at you with that expression, that please don't ask expression, then you already know what I'm talking about. And you know why you didn't ask. One more thing. About a year after I left, I finally worked up the courage to look up Priya. Found her on LinkedIn. She really was in Tucson, working at a solar energy company. Desert. Nothing but sand and sky and sun for miles. Her profile picture was normal, smiling, professional, but her cover photo was a satellite image of a mountain in East Tennessee. No labels, no caption. I recognized the drainage, the river, the ridge. She was looking at Bald River Station from above. Every day. I still don't know if she was watching it or watching for something to come out of it. What do you think she found down there?